Welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast, the show by fans for fans of your Milwaukee Brewers.
All right, Brewer fans, welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast with Craig, Vince, and Scott. How you guys doing today?
Hey guys, doing great, Craig. Doing well. How are you, Scotty?
Very well.
All right.
Awesome. Are you with Chad right now, Scott?
He's not with me. I don't know where he is.
Summertime. He's a busy man. Lots of festivals, lots of church festivals, lots of music festivals. Keeps the man busy. Random wrestling events, random corner bars. Catch him anywhere. Anyway, of course, out at AmFam Field as well, I'm sure, in the cheap seats. So, all right. The Brewers wrapped up a week. They took the first part of their homestand, the first 7 games, 2 of 3 in San Diego against the Padres, and also they split in St. Louis to finish 4-3 on the week. I feel with the injuries that are popping up, that was a pretty successful week overall. What were your guys' thoughts on, obviously, right before today's taping, I think it was a huge win against the Cardinals and big 8-0 win when Brewers finally gave some run support for a great outing from Corbin Burns. So it was a huge win. I think that a loss coming out of St. Louis would have been pretty big. So I believe we're still 4.5 games. Is that correct? Ahead of the Cardinals as we leave St. Louis. I think that was pretty huge.
Yeah, I agree. It was pretty big. I think that one thing it does put to rest a little bit, at least, is the idea that the Brewers can't play well against good teams. The Brewers early schedule, through no fault of their own, have been playing a lot of, teams that are on the back end of the league in April and throughout May. But yeah, both San Diego and St. Louis are obviously very good teams, very talented and deep teams. So I think that to be able to win the series in San Diego and at least salvage the series in St. Louis should hopefully give the team a little bit of confidence moving forward that they can play against anybody.
Yeah, especially being on the road like that. These were, like you were saying, we had some injuries, obviously. We had to do it without Peralta, without Adames. And, we were able to scrape by to get enough runs to get a couple wins out of it. 4-3 on the road against 2 good teams. Can't complain.
Yeah, and I stand correctly. We're coming into the end of the weekend here. We're actually 3.5 games ahead of the Cardinals after the win. So obviously, if we would have lost, they would have been a game and a half back, breathing down our neck. So I like to have a little bit of that breathing room as we hit the summer months here. And the Brewers are going to have to traverse some injuries here. So let's start off first by unfortunately mentioning that our anonymous source TC or T Carter, we'll call him.
No, it's Tom. You're talking about Tom Carter. Thing.
Sure.
The guy who gives us all the information.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Tom C would have been good.
Well, unfortunately,
okay, we can go with that. That's fine.
We're rarely wrong, but he was thinking that Freddie Peralta may not have to have too long of an IL stint initially, but that unfortunately the Brewers' fears have been kind of realized, and Craig Counsell has announced that Freddie Peralta will be out for a significant amount of time. What that means, I don't know, but I think that means more months than weeks, unfortunately. And I think the Brewers' starting rotation depth is going to be about to be tested right now as we hit the summer, and we shall see. I guess, what are your overall thoughts on how the Brewers are going to be able to cover for the loss of Freddie Peralta? I should mention that as of this taping, breaking news that Ethan Small will be called up to make his major league debut against the Cubs during a doubleheader at Wrigley on Memorial Day, which is tomorrow. And so that's pretty big news. Whether or not he sticks as a member of the rotation, or I guess he's really just filling in as a 6th starter because of the doubleheader potentially. But what are your overall thoughts on the Brewers rotation going forward, sans Freddie Peralta?
Well, and just really quick, I think that Craig Counsell's initial comments have Freddie being out until August. I mean, that's quite, a long amount of time. Obviously, a lot can change between now and August. So Brewers starting rotation depth definitely is going to be tested, and it's going to be really interesting to watch whether or not the team sticks with a younger guy like Ethan Small, who, as you said, Craig, is going to be called up for one of the games of the doubleheader in Chicago tomorrow, or if the Brewers go and try to find a starter, whether that's a back of the rotation kind of veteran type, or try to get somebody in at the deadline, maybe even a bigger name. I don't know which direction, obviously, the team is going to go since the team hasn't been home and we haven't used our press passes this week. But I think that it'll be really interesting to see what happens. And also, we should point out that Brandon Woodruff suffered a bit of an ankle injury, so we really don't know the full scope of it at this point. Hopefully, he is able to make his next start as well.
Yeah, that is going to make it very tricky because, then obviously we have 2 of our 5 out, at least for one turn through the rotation. And like you said, Peralta, it's going to be a while. Look at, teams like the Dodgers that they were probably one of the only other teams that could brag about having the same, if not even better amount of depth when it came to their starting rotation. And they're trying to cobble together a rotation at this point too. So, it kind of goes to show, obviously depth is extremely important. And it used to be a thing where if you got 4 people, 4 good starters in a rotation, and then your 5th starter, you throw them out there every so often, see what happens. And it'll be like a learning experience for them. And turns out, you really almost need 7 now. That's just the way it is, especially the way that the Brewers kind of keep their pitch counts under wraps and make sure that they're not pitching too much, throwing too many pitches. So, it's got to be done, I guess. It's been interesting.
Well, this I guess is kind of the reason why you have that depth. I don't think that any team in baseball goes into a season expecting that there's not going to be injuries on their pitching staff, kind of like you alluded to, Scotty. I think that the Brewers must have been planning for this. It's why you've got, a guy like Ashby essentially as a spot starter, a 6th starter going into the season, because that he's at least he's got the talent and the capability of stepping up when needed. But even Ashby is certainly going to be tested now, and let's just hope that there's not going to be any other injuries, going forward. But also thankful about Eric Lauer stepping up as much as he has this year, and we mentioned it before, but thankful that when you're a 5th starter going into the season, Adrian Hauser, that's a pretty good thing. It'll be very interesting to see what happens here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, you guys have great points. Obviously, the depth of your starting rotation is very important, especially for a contending team. And everyone knows the old baseball adage that you can never have too much pitching. I think that really is true of starting pitching. There's very few times that an entire 5-man rotation will go through the entire season without any type of injury. And I think the Brewers have been kind of fortunate in injuries in the last few seasons overall. And so you really have to be prepared for those to pop up. And obviously we went into the season with Aaron Ashby as their 6th starter, which I think was nice for depth with his experience he got last year out of the bullpen and even in the playoffs. And then this year, now we have Ethan Small, who's been doing great pitching with under a 188 ERA at AAA so far this year. And so he's going to get the call to make his major league debut, as we mentioned. And I think he's nice to have up for depth. The one thing you have to consider is a lot of times when, the rookies coming up to make their major league debut, sometimes in their 1st or 2nd start, they have some success because hitters haven't seen them. But once they make some adjustments, usually these guys go through some growing pains from anywhere from like a half a dozen to a dozen starts, where they're really kind of having to find their legs, so to speak, or their arms, no pun intended. But you really, a contending team ideally wouldn't want to go through or suffer through breaking in a rookie with growing pains. And that's why you saw the Brewers as contenders over the last 4+ years break in some of their rookie pitchers like Corbin Burns and like Aaron Ashby as examples out of the bullpen during their rookie seasons, just to give them that experience there and then stretch them back out, so to speak, going into the next seasons. I don't know that that'll be the plan with Small or not, but he may just have a couple of spot starts here and there whenever possible, but we shall see what the plan is going forward. And obviously it'll all depend on the health of Woodruff's ankle. But I think we will have to definitely cover. And I think obviously Aaron Ashby goes from the bullpen directly into Freddie Peralta's starting spot going forward. And I wouldn't say that he's necessarily over his growing pains as a pitcher, as a young pitcher. Obviously, sometimes those can be ups and downs for years before he really finds himself. If he is going to be a top flight starter, there's still going to be some ups and downs even with Ashby, obviously. But I think that he's shown great ability as a starter and a great upside. And I think the Brewers really believe in him, just like they've believed in their other young stars that they've brought up. So I think he's in here for a really good experience in the next couple of months, filling in every fifth day going forward. So he's definitely going to be a valuable piece to this 2022 Brewers team. All right, well, let's talk about a couple of other injuries. Well, first of all, let's go to some positive news. And Willie Thomas, who's been injured, has been, it's now been said that he's going to come back at the start of the next homestand, which starts this week, Thursday, against the Padres. So he should be back in action. He's on a rehab start till then. So he is going to be back with the team, which will be a huge boost to the offense, obviously. But as we mentioned before, the Brewers are very fortunate to have such versatility in their players, like Luis Urias, who's been filling in at shortstop without really missing a beat on the offensive side of the ball. So that's nice. And as we saw today, Jace Peterson then slides over to third and is really doing great when he gets the opportunity. And Mike Brosseau also, as the other part of that third base platoon here during the injury time, has been doing fairly well too. So, I mean, obviously the way that this team was constructed and the versatility on the infield is really shining through right now. So Adames will be back. That'll be a big boost coming this Thursday. However, Hunter Renfro, I haven't really heard. He's still going to be out, and he is on the IL, so I'm not sure when he's coming back. I know that's just giving more everyday at-bats to Tyrone Taylor, who, again, actually had a really hot streak. I think over something like a week. I think he had 12 RBIs over like 7 games or something ridiculous. So he's obviously been huge. So all these guys have been stepping up, and the Brewers haven't been missing a beat, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and Taylor looked really good in that series in St. Louis. He had another nice game today. It just seems like he's hitting the ball hard. Even some of the outs that he's made, I've kind of been impressed. He's he's hitting the ball where it's pitched. He's shown some good plate discipline. I've just been really impressed by Tyrone Taylor, especially in the last, like you said, two weeks maybe.
Yeah, you could say you would think this is probably the best 2-week stretch of his career so far, his young career, but. Yeah, he's really shown that he's able to take it day to day as a center fielder on this team, which I was a little bit worried about. But, obviously Kane had a nice game today as well. So Kane obviously playing in center. But Taylor is obviously doing a really good job. He's come together. I'm very happy with it because I actually thought he was one of the people on the team, I guess on the roster going into this year, that I thought we had an opportunity to upgrade in the center field or outfield position. And we didn't do that. We stuck with what we had, and it worked out pretty well. So good job.
And my biggest concern has been, in the last few weeks has been, Christian Yelich again. I think that we were all very excited after he hit for the cycle, but come back down to earth just a little bit. His batting average is now, I think, at 241. And Scott, you could have your interns double check that. But I'm still hopeful. He's still hitting the ball hard. I think that, he's shown flashes of the old Christian Yelich. So it'll be kind of interesting to see if he's able to kind of adapt. He's seeing teams again now for the second time in some cases here as we enter June.
Yeah, and the thing,
he's definitely hitting the ball hard, but at the same time, like, he's just not lifting it anymore. It's almost like we're seeing the Marlins, like the younger Christian Yelich, where he was always hitting the ball hard, but he was not getting the power numbers that he was getting, in his MVP period, I guess. He just hasn't been able to lift the ball, which. Obviously you're not going to be able to hit home runs by hitting ground balls through the right side. So it'll be interesting. Hopefully he gets it together though.
And the one thing that really still just makes him a valuable everyday player is, even though he has got, like you said, the surprising lack of power is just not returning, and his launch angle is down and all that stuff. I mean, he has shown the propensity to have a great still idea of the strike zone. So he has been getting on base when he can. And so even though his batting average is even down a bit, I feel like that'll rebound, and his on-base percentage will stay strong, even though the slugging is one part of his game that I just don't know if it'll return or not. I'm not sure what the real reasoning for that is. It could be the change in the baseball. It could be the change in the fact that he's, his back's not totally right for that. I'm not sure. It could be a health thing. It could just be a mental thing. I don't know. But I mean, with that being said, obviously he's not the Christian Yelich that MVP Christian Yelich, but I think he's still a valuable player to have in our lineup every day. And I think at this point, the Brewer fans will be pretty satisfied with that moving forward. So yeah, coming up here, we've got 4 games against the Cubs, actually a split day-night doubleheader tomorrow on Memorial Day. And then it's a very odd 8-game week this week, because then with the doubleheader, we actually then have 4 games at home against the Padres, who we also just played. So it'll be a big week here for the Brewers as we enter June. Obviously, I think the Brewer, everything that's played out so far this season, I think has pretty much been what we as the Brew Crew Review and baseball people have kind of prognosticated, and that's the Brewers being the strongest team in the division, being, the Cardinals being a somewhat close second, and then the rest of the teams are, definitely further back and definitely not playoff contenders. So it really feels like it's going to be that 2-horse race, and that's why these head-to-head matchups are pretty big. And unfortunately, we've split the season series with the Cardinals so far, and hopefully we can end up winning that series overall. Yeah, there's going to be, just speaking of overall schedule, it is going to get tougher for the Brewers. I feel like the first 2 months this season is a little bit lighter schedule for the Brewers. A lot of games against the Cubs and the Pirates and Nationals, teams like that. So I think that some tough stretches are coming ahead. I know we play the Blue Jays in June and some other really tough teams. So I guess, do you feel that the Brewers are going to struggle a little bit more or do you feel that the team will be starting to gel together a little bit more also going forward?
I'm not really that concerned about the toughness of the schedule. I don't think that they are either. I don't think the teams really think about it as much as we do as fans. I think that they just show up and play every day pretty much, and they're going to play hard and every single day. So I tend to think that this team has kind of shown an ability to step up when needed, against different types of opponents. And I think we just saw that on this road trip. A lot of teams in Brewers past would have folded the instant that they land in California, it seems like, on our West Coast road trip. I like that this team is, again, played some good teams very competitively. So no, I don't think this team is going to be scared. In addition, this is a team now that's got a lot of postseason experience over the last few years, and we're fortunate that we've been in the postseason, 2018 until through last season. So this is not a team that's necessarily shy about playing big games or good teams.
Yeah, it's definitely true. I don't know. I guess I'm not too worried about the schedule. Obviously the schedule is going to get a little bit harder, but I still think up to this point, I think we've had just about the easiest schedule in the league. So it's a little bit of a cause for concern, but at the same time, the way this roster is built, the way this team is, I don't see them getting in any kind of a prolonged losing streak or anything like that. This team is just too good. I think that, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to hit with everyone, especially teams like the Blue Jays, but overall we can play with anyone because we do still have that dominant pitching, obviously.
Yeah. The thing, I agree with you guys saying that. I don't see us going on any long losing streaks just because of our awesome top of the rotation pitching and our dominant back of the bullpen. Josh Hader has been putting up historically good numbers. In fact, I think that he have 16 saves now, and he still hasn't given up a run, which is a major league record. I think all of his appearances, he's saved games so far. And obviously Devon Williams, we should mention, I guess at this point, and Brewer fans have probably already heard or read about this, that Josh Hader had to be away from the game a few days earlier in this particular week because of complications in his wife's pregnancy. So we obviously wish them the best going forward with that. But in his absence, his kind of short-term absence, it was while the Brewers were in San Diego for the 3-game series against the Padres, and Devon Williams pitched all 3 of those games. and pitched pretty phenomenally actually, and picked up a couple of saves. Obviously that shows just how good Williams is, and the Brewers having that 1-2 punch is really valuable. And some teams don't even have one pitcher. Most teams, I should say, don't have even one pitcher of the caliber of either of those two guys. So I guess what surprises, did anything surprise either of you about Devon Williams actually being used three games in a row, or if that's something that the Brewers are going to be able to do as a bullpen going forward?
I mean, what options do we have? I guess when Hader was out, in some ways he was the only guy that could really step up into that role. I suppose it could have been, Boxberger, but I think that, the team is definitely more confident with Devon Williams out there. Just looking through some of the numbers that Scott's interns have provided, it looks like 33 strikeouts on the year for Williams compared to 11 walks. That's a number that stands out to me. Those are exciting numbers to look at.
Yeah, it's really important that he stepped up too. Then obviously without Hader being there, and to be able to pitch all 3 games, I don't think that's the way the Brewers wanted it to go, but it's kind of the way it had to go. But at the same time, the Brewers have still not used Hader, their closer, in any kind of non-save situation. They're not really bringing him in early, so it was interesting when we played the Cardinals that they were bringing their closer when they were down by 1, and they were at home. And I just thought, really wish that we could get a little bit more out of Hader. That was a little bit disappointing for me. But at the same time, the Cardinals are a little bit more of a desperate team because they're not at the top of the division like us. So I get it. They had to, maybe do a little bit more to try to get there.
Yeah, and obviously I think we keep going over this, but Josh Hader, even though Williams' presence in there, I think most Brewer fans have thought, well, we could go ahead and trade Hader and not lose a beat with Williams, their closer. So why not do that when we can replenish our entire farm system, most likely, or even get a nice hitter at the major league level to improve this team? But as contenders, that 1-2 punch in the back end of the bullpen is super valuable. When you can, if you're a team playing the Brewers and if you don't get the lead or at least tie up the game by the 8th inning, I don't think that you're, as a fan of the opposing team, has got much confidence at all that they're going to be able to escape with a win. Obviously these guys are, and obviously Williams has had a little bit of walk problem, I guess we'll call it that, a little bit of control problem earlier on this season, but I think he's kind of finally cleared that up. And I really think that you really can't get to the back of the Brewers bullpen very easily.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and especially when coupled with the strikeout numbers that I mentioned earlier, I think that he kind of makes up for some of that. And again, as you mentioned, Craig, I think some of those bad numbers were inflated by 2 really bad outings that Williams had, and they get balanced out by the majority of his innings, which are very good. So I certainly am thankful to have Devon Williams back there, and quite frankly, after what happened at the end of the season in 2021 in St. Louis with Devon, I think that. He probably wouldn't be around anymore, quite frankly, with this team if he didn't have an incredible set of valuable skill set. He obviously provides a lot of depth at the back end of the bullpen, and I think the Brewers recognize that and are using him appropriately.
I'm kind of glad you bring that up because I was just thinking, the way our season ended last year and the way it ended the year before, I was half expecting Williams to get Grishomed out of here after
right.
Obviously breaking his hand and coming out. What, you can't think of a worse way to let your team down, unfortunately, just by getting mad and
I know.
A wall. I don't know. So,
but that speaks to his value, right, Scott? Today, because we still have him and use him in high leverage situations. So obviously the team still has a lot of confidence in Devon Williams.
Yeah, exactly. I think if they could have gotten even equal value for him, I think that may have sent a message. But at the same time, I'm not saying hey, we should have traded Williams, not at all. But I just think, he's so valuable, and it's hard to replace a bullpen arm that is that good. Simply put.
Yep, agreed. And then again, when we did trade Grisham, we at least got an ace for him in Eric Lauer.
And a very versatile, one of our better hitters and fielders and most versatile players in Louis Arias too.
Heck yeah.
I think we hands down. I mean, who knows what'll happen in the future, but I think we hands down won that trade. And just, I guess, in defense,
even Eric Yardley, Craig, at least in 2020, he had quite a bit of value. I mean, he's gone now, but he actually pitched well for us that, shortened season.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, yeah, we definitely won that trade.
And in the Brewers front office defense, I know it's kind of like the cool thing to say that we traded Grisham right after he made that, I guess, mortal error in the wild card game, which kind of cost us the wild card game. But I really honestly don't think that play had any factor in him being traded whatsoever. I mean, I think that they may have been willing to or looking to trade him high anyway, and there may have been those players like that they were already targeting the San Diego Padres organization before that offseason even hit. You just don't know, but I really don't think that had much of a factor in the actual trade. But obviously when you do a boneheaded thing like Devon Williams did last year, I think that maybe even holds a little bit more weight on considering trading a player, just because it really shows kind of part of their character more so than an on the field incident like Grisham had or whatever. So,
yeah, of course.
So obviously,
yeah.
But with that being said, he's young, and young people sometimes do stupid things, especially when alcohol is involved. And it's just, I mean, that doesn't excuse it away at all or anything. But it seems like something that you just learn from as a young player and move on. And Devon Williams, I think, will be a big part of this Brewer team going forward, and hopefully bring a World Series to Milwaukee. That'd be awesome. So, all right. Well,
yeah, Scott, Craig, we saw you at that Bon Jovi concert with, decisions with alcohol back in 2005 or so. I definitely agree on your assessment.
Yeah, that's right. I was much younger there. I did make the mistake. I didn't make the mistake of punching a wall or a Baruch though. So, I mean, everything went. So, and of course our anonymous source TC was there to help break it up. So that was awesome. Thank you, Tom, for that.
That's what he does.
Appreciate that.
Hey guys, really quick. I just have to mention one thing before we sign off here and thank our listeners. Corbin Burns recorded his 500th career strikeout today. In today's masterful game against the Cardinals. So I think we should say congrats to him. But I wanted to ask the two of you, do you think that Corbin Burns, who is in his, fourth season in the big leagues? We'll have to have your interns look it up. He's already at 500 strikeouts. Do you think he's got any chance to knock out Giovanni Giardo's franchise record? 1,226 strikeouts for Giardo, by the way.
I think it's very possible.
Yeah,
I do too. Yeah, I do as well. Giardo was in Milwaukee for 8 seasons, so I guess it depends on how long Corbin's here, of course. But
I'm gonna feel a lot more confident after he signs that.
Yeah, and
yeah, and that so we're talking 5 seasons worth of games now. One of those seasons being very short, 2020. So yeah, quite impressive.
Yeah, one person that probably will not break Giovanni's strikeout record is Brett Anderson, but it makes me wonder if, he is still a free agent. It makes me wonder if either if our starting rotation has any kind of struggles, or if we're just looking for another depth piece, if we're going to maybe reach back out to him. He's obviously had some successful time here with the Brewers before, so could happen.
Know that Craig would love to see it. And maybe Wade Miley is available via trade from the Cubs as well when he gets healthy. And Jordan Lyles is still around, I think, too. So, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Jordan Lyles. Isn't he with the Orioles? Wait.
Yeah, he's with Baltimore.
Orioles.
He's got he's pitched in 10 games this year. Posted a 4.26 ERA. So, yeah, it is definitely possible.
All right, so coming up this week, let's make our predictions. 4 games at Wrigley in 3 days, and then 4 games at at AmFam Field against Padres. So 8-game week. What record do you feel the Brewers will have? Scott, do you want to start off?
I'm just gonna say 4-4. I don't know. Doubleheaders are tough to sweep. I think if we had an extra day, maybe I would change it. But I'm gonna stick with 4-4.
Yeah, my buddy Vikram says 8-0. I like his confidence. I think I'm gonna go with 5-3 though. We'll say 5-3. Crazy week. 8 days or 8 games, I should say, in 7 days. It's wild.
I'm gonna stay on the optimistic track here and pick 5-3 for the Brewers this week too. I feel like we're superior both the teams, so I think 5-3 is my call.
Excellent.
All right.
Sounds great, guys.
All right. Well, that wraps up for the week. Thanks for joining in, listeners. And remember to stay classy, Wisconsin, and go Brewers.
Go Brewers, guys. Do, 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 do.